Hello, I'm Miss Samantha Mann. Welcome to my box of issues. Hello, good afternoon. I'm going to start with an announcement this afternoon. It's a little bit uncomfortable, but I do feel so. In the wake of the joke that I attempted last week about Greece, there was a feeling in the room that perhaps sensibilities might have been the people might have been offended by what I said. Now, the interesting thing is that I also felt that that it was perhaps close to the bone, but it turns out that my reasons were different to those of I only felt that perhaps the inclusion of the word bottom in the I just thought we are, as I've said before, we're certainly we can talk about body parts and so on, but I just felt as though springing it on you like that when you weren't expecting it. Perhaps some of you watching with younger people might have, perhaps you don't want to have that sort of a discussion. But anyway, the point is that's not what. So the reason that I'm saying this is because some of the team felt as though there was a more serious issue here, which was that perhaps people would feel as though. So I should probably, for those of you who haven't watched last week's what I'm being asked to call a webisode, I would call it a video. Although why you haven't, it's still available, you can watch it. But in any case, if you haven't watched it already, I'll just sort of run through the joke very quickly. So the joke was why is Europe like a frying pan, and it's the answer being that Greece is at the bottom. And of course, thinking about it, I was rather taken by surprise. But thinking about it, of course, it makes perfect sense. You put Greece on the bottom of the frying pan to stop food sticking to it, and that's the reason why the riddle comes out in the way it does. But some people felt, I think, that perhaps the implication was that we're talking about Greece being at the bottom of Europe, economically and socially and so on, and that's really not acceptable and not something that we want to. We certainly don't subscribe to that opinion, and none of us do, and many of us have visited Greece, and it was a wonderful experience for all of us. But so I'm sure none of you would have worried about that, but in case you were worried, and so what we're going to do, we are going to vet the jokes in future. We're doing that at the moment. It's quite a procedure, so that segment won't appear for a while, but we will be bringing it back, and I hope that you can get, because the first joke I think I tried was rather successful. The Frocker Smile was rather a good one, wasn't it? So perhaps there will be other. So, but anyway, we just wanted to make that announcement, and now we can get on with this afternoon's dilemma. If I can get this open. Right, so there we are. Right. So this afternoon's dilemma is a rather serious one in many ways. It says, the man that I'm in love with is persuaded that he's gay. It's not that I think we are meant for one another, but I just can't bear the thought that he is going to hell. Please help. So, there's so much going on here, isn't there? First of all, obviously, you have, I imagine, what I imagine are religious convictions, and I have no business interfering with those or giving you any kind of. But I would say, the difficult thing here is obviously that I feel at a fundamental level that one has to accept people as they are, and as they report themselves to be. One can't know about anybody else except through their reports of what they. And this person you love has reported that they're gay, and I don't think and really there's nothing to worry about. I don't think. Obviously, I don't have the theological training to calm any of your fears in that sense, but I just feel in a purely human sense, and I do have a certain amount of experience in that area. My brother Hugo was gay, and I'm ashamed to say it now, but I ought to perhaps come clean. It did take a while for me to come to terms with the idea. I was resistant to it, and my parents, I'm not sure, ever really came to terms with it, but we did as a family. I think we went on what people nowadays would call a journey in this respect, and I think we came to realise that if we were going to love Hugo at all, we had to love him as he was, which is and ultimately I think that is the way, and it's much more. I don't think one can love somebody without accepting them. I think the two things probably do go together. And so, of course, I wouldn't dream of telling you what to do or what, but I would say probably the path of least conflict for you in terms of your own inner is simply to try and accept. But probably I'm not the right person to ask, or perhaps I am. I don't know, for other reasons. But in any case, I would say the help I can offer is that with acceptance comes everything becomes a lot simpler. Do visit the Facebook page. Look for Ms. Samantha Mann.